Welcome, chat. I'm Tony Crow from Knicks and Bruises,
I'm Stephanie from the Queen's Court.
and this is.
Crossover.
Thank you for joining us. We're back. Shout out to the chat. Your Black is time, Queen. Another successful double header we're heading into.
Yeah, definitely. If you didn't get an opportunity, check out Knicks and Bruises, where we talk about some of these topics and but a bit more in depth. I'm happy to be here with you, and I'm looking forward to this show. We got a lot to talk about. A lot has popped off since we last met.
Yes, and strangely enough, it's like a lot to look forward to down the stretch. Strangely enough.
Yeah, well, I think we got like 23 games left. Three and a half out of that playing. I know a lot of the chat and a lot of the fans hate when I do that because the season is over. Stop running down how many games we have left and where we are. The season is over, but I do it. I do it anyway.
All right. Well, we're gonna lead off with Knicks and Bruises. In case you missed it, we're gonna briefly reiterate. The big bruise of the week. From for myself and for Steph. So mine was actually Worldwide West. The report Worldwide West had the meeting with James Dolan, and subsequently blamed Tibbs for a good portion of the lack of success the team has had this year. And it hit a sore spot for me. Gave me vibes of Steve Mills, and made me question, is that his actual role within this organization, as far as like, the spy within, or the babysitter, or teacher's pet, however you want to name it, snake in the garden. um, but I didn't like it. I think it sets a bad precedent. We don't know if it's true. Let me lead off with that. But if it is, I don't like it. I think it devalues the coach. I think it doesn't take personal responsibility for, any decision that you have made personally or the front office had made collectively. And me personally, I feel like a vote of confidence for the coach would be more suited, especially publicly, given the circumstances, letting them know, we appreciate the success you had last year. We rode through that, and we're gonna ride through the bad times. It's like a marriage. Take the good with the bad. You gotta deal with the good times and the bad times. So that was my big bruise. And Steph, if you want to add to it, or give yours and
Yeah, I mean,
correlate.
I agree. I mean, like you said, we don't know if it's true, right? We don't know if Worldwide West had this meeting with Dolan, talking about that the reason why the season hasn't been a success was mostly because of Tibbs, right? This is all speculation, right? But if he did have that meeting, one, he's wrong, right? And I'm not saying, like I've said, I don't think Tibbs has had his best year, but he's not the only reason we're where we are. The front office has to take some blame. Randall, not, with the expectations and how he played last year, pretty much doing an about face in terms of his play up until this West Coast trip was a big part of our demise. Kemba, Fournier's play, all of that. Mitch injury and dealing with the weight and what have you. All of that had a lot to do with where the Knicks are right now. You can't pin that on one person. And like I said before, it just the other bruise about it is it's just an indication that the culture of the Knicks is not changing. If this is true, if this is true, that blame game, like somebody has to take the fall,
Mhm.
instead of, what, we didn't get it right. Everybody, nobody has really performed, the way we expected them to. We're going to get this right. We're going to come back. It's that it's somebody's fault. It's one person's fault. And we talked about Atlanta. Atlanta's general manager. Atlanta went to the Eastern Conference Finals last year. This year they're in 10th or 11th place, under 500. The GM came out and said, you know what? Maybe I should not have brought this same team back. Maybe I should have looked to make some changes. You know, he didn't talk about Tibbs. He didn't talk about, and he talked about him. And
Mhm.
I would really like for Leon Rose to make a statement, and not hide in the background and have one person take the heat, when it was some of the decisions you made or didn't make that have us here as well. You know what I mean? So I share that with you in terms of the bruise. Um, the other part of it for me is that Tibbs the only one on the hot seat. And I'm not saying he doesn't deserve to be, but that he's the only one on the hot seat is a bruise for me, because it's just like when you think the organization is taking a turn, we're losing, no doubt about it. But that the in terms of how we operate, that we're making a turn in that regard, something like this comes up. So I hope it's not true. Um, but if it is, it's almost like same old Knicks. New front office, same old Knicks.
And the troublesome part about it, because if it's true, you know where it came from, right? First of all, if it's true, there's really only two sources: Dolan and Worldwide West. So
Right.
the leak or it coming out had to have come from one of the two, right? And
Yeah.
whichever one it would be, it's bad.
Right.
If Dolan came out and leaked what was said and by whom, now that's bumping heads within the organization. Like, oh, you threw me
Hmm.
under the bus. You know what I mean? And then if William Wesley, reported what he said to Dolan, again, it's the same thing. It's like, why are you leaking this information, even if it's true, unless there's some type of hidden agenda or manipulative move behind it. You know what I mean? So that is the,
Yeah.
the the more disappointing part for me. It's like, if it's true, that that's more turmoil. You know what I mean? That's more things that, like you said, of us moving back into that opposite direction where I thought we've turned the corner. So
Right.
it's tough. And
Yeah.
maybe Dolan called upon, hey, somebody needs to come up here and talk to me. You know what I mean? But even
But
if
if
that's the case,
it should have been
go
Leon.
go up or go up there as a collective, as a group, and
Right.
everybody take that ownership. You know what I mean? Like, it gave me the same vibes of the Fizdale meeting after the game. You know what I mean? Like, it gave me that vibe of,
Right.
like, what are y'all doing?
Right.
Like,
Right. Lose. We lose and we're not having a good season, but let's do it together. Let's take the blame together. That's an indication that we're moving in the right direction. And you're absolutely right. And this is why, when people say, if Tibbs decides, that's why I'm saying that the front office has to decide that the season is over and says Tibb has to play the young guys. But then if he does, you got to give him a break if we continue this losing ways, But you can't even trust that, because you can't tell me Fizdale didn't get um, instructions from the front office that don't worry about winning, just make sure the young guys develop. And the reason I believe that's the case, because the way Fizdale operated in the last 5 minutes of the game was not a coach trying to win. This was a coach trying to get, I put so and so in shooting 0.9% from the free throw line because he needed that experience at you know, but the front office turned on him, in my opinion. And I'm not saying Fizdale was a good coach by any stretch, but I still
mhm.
think that the front office turned on him. And it was the same thing with D'Antoni. D'Antoni, they got rid of everybody trying to get LeBron, you know, but then held him accountable for wins and losses or whatever it was. And let me tell you, I wasn't a big fan of D'Antoni after the Marbury thing, but still, so you can't, as a coach, sometimes you can't even trust that y'all in this together. So now after what happened to bring this full circle, now after what happened with Worldwide, if I'm Tibbs, are we in this together or not? Y'all gonna blame me or not? Y'all not gonna take accountability for your part of it,
Mm-hmm. And that's the
and
biggest thing.
don't even come asking me to play the young guys, so my record could be might be even worse, and then y'all hold that against me. So when those type of splinters, it doesn't bode well for us. And to me, that's just a big disappointment, because when we brought in this new front office, we brought in Tibbs, and I'm the first to say he hasn't coached his best. At least be on the same page.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying. At least be on the same page. So that's my bruise, that we might be the same old Knicks as far as culture is concerned.
Man. I hope it's not true, and if it is, I don't even know where. Like, how do you fix that? How do you go back and reconnect the disconnect? Because there's an obvious disconnect if that story is true. And then another big thing that we spoke about, I'll talk about it briefly, but it's gonna come up again later, is Derrick Rose's absence and how that has affected the team overall. I think it hasn't been spoke about enough. I think that contributed a whole lot until this current season. We've had people having to step into roles that aren't their strengths, and kind of sacrifice their strengths to Bergson quickly, in particular, playing the point predominantly all season, taken away from their strengths.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody's really spoken about that. And then the fact of just Derrick Rose not being here, and the value he had, just based off last year and the beginning of this year, the value that he had to the team, him not being there, that changes the whole dynamic. So it's blame to go around. There's excuses, if you want to call it that, or reasons why we are where we are. But they really got to stick together and figure it out together. Stop throwing each other under the bus, and
Right.
and
Right.
get through it.
And move away from this. You got to be great every year you play for the Knicks. You got to be great every year. So if you have a good year, great, you can stay. You have one bad year, oh, you got to go. What kind of precedent is that? In any organization, that's a bad precedent to set for incoming coaches.
Yep.
If you're an established coach, are you coming to the Knicks where if you have a down season, you out? You don't even get a chance to rebound. You don't get a chance to correct. If you can do this to Tibbs coming off a coach of the year, what established coaches want to come and work under that situation?
Or I'll do you one better. They're gonna sign. They're gonna take the contract. They're gonna take the job, but it's gonna be about the money. They're gonna say, "Oh, I'll come." The same way Phil Jackson. I don't want to be. I don't want to come. I don't want to. Give me $20 million a year. I'll come.
Right.
And
if I have to deal with that,
and they're gonna do
have
it
to
for
make
the money,
it worth my while. Right.
And you don't even know if they're giving their full effort, their full heart and soul. If there's one thing about Tibbs, he's giving his all.
Right. Whether you agree with him or not, because we're gonna talk about some things today. I particularly agree with
it. It is a dangerous president, like
it's
you said.
A dangerous precedent to set,
and it can only lead to turmoil down the line. Because if I'm a coach and I know that, or I'm signing a 5-year deal, but I don't really have security. You know what I mean? Like, I could be out of it. It's a 5-year deal and I'm getting paid for 5 years, but I might be here a year. I might be here 2, because I'm not going to be given room for growth or room for error, depending on how I start.
Correct. And I was looking at Miami. I was looking at San Antonio early in their career. Miami has some bad seasons. Sometimes after a good season, but they stayed the course. When you know you got your guy, you just stay the course as an organization with the understanding that we're all in this together and there's going to be ups and downs and all of us are going to make mistakes at one point or another. So from an organizational perspective, I think it's just a bad move at this time. At this time. No doubt about it. But let's talk about the Kemba news today. Um,
Real quick,
so yeah,
um,
go ahead.
just shout out to the chat out
Mhm.
there, and they are definitely split. It's a lot of people is Tibbs got to go, his time's up, and this, and then a lot of people agree with some of the points. I just want to point it out. But salute to you guys, appreciate you.
Yeah. So on to Kemba. Um, it was announced today that he would not play for the rest of the season. Leon Rose made a statement that he agrees with Kemba's decision. The question is, was it Kemba's decision? Was it even a mutual decision? Or was it an organizational decision that they're just trying to fix up? He wasn't at practice today. Tibbs says he doesn't know if he'll be with the team for the rest of the season, that's between Kemba and management. So he's not aware of that. So just your thoughts. Salute, Hardwill.
Well, being that today was like Knicks conspiracy theory day, I think honestly, I feel like this was Tibbs' decision. I think this was Tibbs maybe making a compromise with the organization, with the front office, saying, "All right, you want me to play some young guys, right? You want to see what some of these guys have. How am I gonna do this? You traded a guy out the rotation for a guy you want in the rotation, but I didn't
Mm-hmm.
lose any of my guys in the rotation. How do you
Mm-hmm.
want me to do this? Um, you guys came to me and said, "Hey, we got Kemba for you. I know this is not your guy or your type of guy, but we feel like he could bring something to the table. Work, fit him into your program." So I feel like this was a compromise. It,
Mm-hmm.
um, between front office and Tibbs saying, give a little, get a little push pull. You know what I mean? Like, I you got to get this guy. It can't be on me. We see how it looked optically when it was on my decision. We gotta make it look like it's his decision. Um, and without Kemba actually coming out and
Mm-hmm.
giving an explanation, to me, it's I don't believe it was his decision because I think he's the guy. He's the type of guy that will come out and be like, "This is my decision, and this is why." You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, there was some talk that it was between the organization and his agent,
Mm,
um, that this was probably the best course of action. So much goes on in front offices, so much goes on behind the scenes. You can't even trust a press release. Who knows if he asked for that? Who knows if Tibbs asked for that? Who knows if it was, like you said, between the organization and the and his agent? Who knows? You know, I it's hard for me to believe that Kemba asked the front office to sit the rest of the season to get ready for the next season.
mm.
I don't know. That's hard to believe. But here we are. I think this is something that should have happened sooner. I think that um, and it's just funny how the first time it happened, the fan base was all up in arms. Then lately it was like, why is Kimber still playing? But that's Knicks fans, and that includes myself. Um, we go hard and we change quick. you know. So he's out the starting lineup now. And what's next? Rose practiced today. RJ practiced today. So that means there's going to be some shifts in the rotation. I immediately thought, that this would open up space for McBride, but then I remembered quickly that Rose is coming back. So I may not be opening up minutes for him. But anyway, your thoughts on the whole Kimba thing and the rotation going forward?
Oh, well, again, Kemba, I think it was coach coach decision,
Right,
but they had to fix it and make it look better than it did early in the season. Um, Someone in the chat salute said, they didn't want to further embarrass Kimba. I agree. Like they don't want to make it like the only way to get away with this is by making it his decision. And if it was, I would like to hear from him. Like I said, but as far as the dominoes falling and what does this mean?
mhm,
Um, I think it opens up. I think the question is number one. I don't think Rose is going to start as much as I would like him to. Um, I think the best thing for Rose career wise, stay on that bench role, keep the minutes down,
right,
limit, you're gonna be on the floor at the end of the game, so that means you really gotta monitor him in them first three quarters.
right.
So he's not playing 12 minutes in the fourth. But as far as the starting role, I think I would prefer IQ. We haven't seen it enough this year as far as starting. He the few times he did, I think he had like, I know he had one real bad game starting, and I know he had a decent game starting as well. But I think he could fit in better in that role because it doesn't change anything with the rest of the guys. I think we could
Hmm.
utilize Fournier more, bringing the ball up, RJ more, bringing the ball up. Um, Obviously Randall brings the ball up at times. So at those moments, I think quickly can revert back to his role of kind of like a spot up shooter or
Hmm.
scorer, and get rid of some of those responsibilities that he has running the second unit, where he kind of has to be the facilitator, and his shot really hasn't been falling in that role of full
Hmm.
time point guard. So I would go with quickly, but I know you think Tibbs is gonna go in another direction.
Well, I was for I would have liked to listen. We talking about the best of the worst options here. The Knicks don't have a point guard. So, but I was thinking about Quickly as well because I was thinking that Quickly would play off of Randall because Randall handles the ball a
Hmm.
lot now, for better or for worse. And would Quickly would be able to spot up for shots,
Hmm.
you know. But then I was reading before I came on that they asked Tibbs the question, and he said that the numbers show that the team is better than Burks with Burks. So, I mean, I'm going by the eye test, you know, but he has the statistics, in terms of, I'm sure, what the offensive rating is, the defensive rating, how well they're shooting. I'm sure he has all of these team stats um, that shows the team is better when Burke is on the floor. I'm looking at ball movement. I'm looking at playmaking, but that's probably not what Tibbs is looking at. And case in point, the same thing with IQ. IQ is not a playmaker, and IQ is not shooting well, but statistics show the team performs better when IQ is on the floor. So you know we got to be cognizant of that the coaching staff is working with certain statistics and things that we're not privy to. So I'm not happy about Burks being in the starting lineup,
At point guard, at
at point
least.
guard and I also think he just plays better and he does something better for us off the bench.
Mm.
especially in that fourth quarter. But he'll probably still get that opportunity.
Now, I see a lot of people, a couple people in the chat, asking about Deuce and why isn't I don't know if you go from not in the rotation to starting a rookie point guard
Right, right.
without setting the president or perception that all right, season's wash, right? We gave up on the season, so I don't know if you can even do that. But bringing him along into the rotation, do you think there's a chance? I mean, it's very slim, obviously, but you think there's a chance somehow Tibbs opens the rotation to more than
No,
10.
to 12, to more than 10. No,
More than
I think
10.
it was a stretch for Tibbs to even play 10.
Hmm.
To be honest, I think it was a stretch for him to play 10. So I don't think he does that. I think another shoe that's going to drop is that Burks goes back. I mean, excuse me. If Burks is in a starting lineup, that does open up one spot because Tibbs is not going to go 11 or 12, so we
Mm-hmm.
can forget it. So you got Rose, you got IQ, you got Obi, you got Taj. We could talk about that. We should talk about that as well. Taj over Sims. Um, he's not going to play Cam and Grimes. And if Burks is in the starting lineup, who gets that spot in that second unit? Is it Burks or is it Cam? I mean, excuse me, is it
Is it
Cam or is it Grimes?
Grimes? And that's the question of the night, right now for
Yeah.
me.
What do you think, chat? Burks or I mean Grimes or Cam in that second unit?
So it's like because of what we've seen, and Grimes has earned his spot in the rotation, I believe, personally, based off of being with the team all year, waiting for his opportunity, producing when he got his shot, never complaining about,
Hmm.
in and out the lineup, but he just stayed ready. Everything Thibodeau preaches, he's done. He's
Right.
like a model of Tibbs' system in the sense that wait your turn, stay ready, and he could point at Grimes every time, like you know what I mean. Play defense, like he could point at Grimes as an example of you can get into the rotation, you can crack it, you can start from not being in there and get it and make it quickly as an example of that as well. And I believe that's why he hasn't pulled quickly yet. He hasn't sacrificed quickly and given that opportunity to someone else. But it's tricky because we'll get into the playing out of position coming up. But I feel like in this instance, Grimes is going to have to play out of position. He's going to have to end up playing the 3
Right.
when you got Rose at the 1, quickly at the 2. Now, Grimes is going to be full-time 3. Is he capable of guarding 3s? Absolutely. Do you want him guarding 3s full-time? Probably not. I
Right.
think Cam is better suited. He's a natural 3.
Hmm.
So it's tough. Like I
And
think
and
I
would
think
you take
Grimes earned it, but I want to see Cam. So it's tough.
right? But listen, this is the other option. Do you think Tibbs would ever take IQ out of the rotation and play Grimes and Cam?
I've been calling for that based off of IQ's shooting. I'm like he's not excelling at what his strength is. Like but I was in favor of that for Grimes. I thought
Hmm.
Grimes brought it defensively, and even if his shot is off, it never looks like he takes a bad shot. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Where I know IQ is who he is, and I've preached that in the past. But when he misses, some of them shots just look horrible. Like, why would you shoot that? You know what I mean? Like,
Hmm.
the only savior in that is when it goes in, and the fact that he's not shooting at his normal percentage as of late I was like, hey, I go with Grimes, so I would do it.
You would go with
I
Grimes and Cam and sit IQ, mix IQ
not
situational.
not like right off the jump, but if his struggles continue, yeah, I would do it for a game. You know what I mean? Like sit him for a game. If Cam excels, now he's getting a notch. You
Right.
know, I'm not gonna just pull his leash all the way back, but when he's not hitting, I'm gonna go give Cam a look. You know, I'm gonna give Grimes a look. Um,
Mhm.
but yeah, that out of position thing, I think that's where it gets tricky for me because I feel like Grimes earned it, but I think Cam is would be in his natural position and in a better position to succeed. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So it's tough for me
Yeah, I
personally.
mean that second unit was kind of small anyway, with Rose, IQ, and
And
Burks.
Burks,
So I think Grimes is like maybe an inch, maybe even 2 inches shorter than Burks, right? Burks is 6'6". I think
hmm
Grimes is 6'4". But Grimes is a ball of fire on the defensive end. I think he more than makes up for the those 2 inches. But I think it's an undersized second unit anyway. I would be okay with IQ being situational and playing Cam
but you
and
got to think
Grimes.
about it.
Mhm,
He has the capability, but for the most part, he's been guarding ones and twos all year, showing that tenacity. He has the ability to switch. We haven't seen
mhm,
him guarding a three, a 6'8" guy all game. You know what I mean? A 6'7"
mhm,
guy all game.
mhm,
Sometimes a 6'9" guy at the three.
mhm, mhm,
So he's capable of doing it on switches, on possessions. I don't know. Are you setting him up to fail? You know what I mean? Are you making him?
mhm.
That's the only question because I think Cam is better suited for guarding a 6'7", 6'8", 6'9" guy all game long. He just
Yeah,
hasn't proven
but these
anything
are
to us
second team
per se.
guys, though.
Yeah, that's true.
The second team guys. Um, yeah, and sometimes just because somebody has the height doesn't mean they do a good job either. You know, but
Agreed.
but I like your point that you play IQ, but it's a quick hook. It's a quick hook. He's done it before. He's done it even last year, where quickly would play a few minutes in the first half, and depending on how he looked or didn't look, we wouldn't even see him in the second half. I think it's probably one of those things. I mean, what he has in his favor is that Tibbs trusts him, and Tibbs is all into the stats, and the Knicks play better with, supposedly with him on the floor. So um, we shall see. But it's just a good success story, in my opinion, that Grimes got his opportunity through COVID, and he kept his, he made it so that Tibbs had to play him. So
Yeah,
kudos to him, and
and
he
the others can learn from that.
the others can learn from that. Yeah, with the time that you get, you better ball out like you on fire. you know um Shout out to Ayab Matan. I don't know if I got that right. Grimes shot selection is bad. See ball, shoot ball. I disagree though. I think he takes
and
open shots that they kick out to him.
and if you listen to Tibbs, like after his first two games of actually getting his opportunity, Tibbs is like, I want him to shoot. Like he can't turn down. If he's gonna get pulled, it's gonna be because he's not shooting the open shot. And I think once he got that green light, you're right. It's see ball, shoot, catch ball, shoot ball, but it's open shots. He's never forcing a shot. You know what I
Right.
mean? He's never has the mindset of I'm gonna shoot this ball no matter what, which means like I'm gonna get to my, you know what I mean? Like his shots are
Mhm.
open.
Yeah, yeah, no doubt. Um, Shout out to the chat. We got 216 in the room. We got 71 likes. So please hit that like button. Appreciate you. That's one way of contributing to the show. Yeah, I mean, any thoughts on just, this very well may have been Kimba's last game in New York. And I know you're a big fan of Kemba. Any thoughts as he goes out the door? No, I'm just kidding. Any thoughts on his time here? If this is indeed the last time we've seen him in the Knick uniform?
I mean, honestly, I think it should be the last time. I think ultimately try to move him in the off season,
Hmm.
um, draft night. You know what I mean? Whatever it is, see what's out there. Even if it's using the expiring part of the, you know what I mean,
Hmm.
not necessarily a team looking to utilize him, but as an
Right.
expiring, maybe you use that money to take back somebody that you could use or want. If that doesn't work, if there's no suitors, I'm not opposed to buying him out at that point. Do not start the season with him. So if you're gonna, you know what I
Right.
mean, if you're gonna make a move and buy him out, make sure that is done immediately without before the season
Hmm.
starts. If you save 5 million, 4 million, whatever it is, that's money that you could use however you use it. But I don't think there's a reason to bring him along and try to hold on to that value of the
Right.
expiring to the trade deadline.
Right.
I think that you don't start the season with him and you try to find whatever direction you're moving forward in at point
Right.
guard to start the season.
Right. Right. Yeah, I mean, we all know my take on the Kimba signing, but I do remember saying that if everything broke right and Kimba was even close to what he was in Charlotte, that would um it would be a net positive, because we all know the liability on defense, but that if he was close to Charlotte, it would be a net positive, and that he would need to get significant minutes in order to see that net positive, and that just wasn't the case. I think these last games here, he wasn't played in a way where he can shine. So I mean, we gotta consider that as well. He plays better on the ball, and he was playing off of Randall, and that's just not who he is. And when we think about the great games that he's had for us and the really good games he's had for us, it's when he was on the ball, running that pick and roll, running the offense, getting into the key for that for the mid range jumper. That's when he was at his best. Once you saw him just playing off of Randall, that's not his game. So I knew we weren't going to get at least what we could even get for him out of him playing in that role. I wish him the very best. I never thought it was a good move from the beginning, but it's okay. Organizations make moves like that all the time, and it doesn't work out, and so we just have to regroup and go from here.
Agree.
Yeah.
Oh man, I mean, and yeah, I just like I said, as long as we do what we got to do to move on before the season starts, I think that's the best thing for both parties. He can find his direction as far as new team, retirement,
Hmm.
broadcasting, whatever, and we could move on from it before there's any more controversy behind it or
Hmm.
questions.
Yeah. I mean, B. Willis, it takes a village to raise a team. We need a point guard and some length. No playing, please. Well, I disagree about the no playing, and that's only because I just believe you play to win, and wherever you land up, that's where you end up. Whether that's 10th, 12th, 14th, 15th, you play to win. Um, but what to B. Willis' point, does the does the front office share our thinking that we need a point guard? I don't think they shared that in the offseason because I don't think they thought it was a priority. Um, and I wonder, do they see that as a priority now?
Maybe
We shall see in the offseason.
maybe it wasn't a priority to the point of going after a guy you didn't want. Like if let's say they wanted, let's say they had one guy in mind, right? And let's say it was Lowry, and they knew like he wasn't interested, right? Maybe they felt like not paying for somebody they don't necessarily want, especially bringing a guy in at that point. It's not going to be really a 1 year deal. You know what I mean? Everybody's looking for security, 3 years, you know, two guaranteed. So maybe they just couldn't find the guy that fit their landscape of this is the amount we're willing to spend. This is the years we're willing to give guaranteed.
But that's the
Like,
problem, though,
I mean,
in my
sometimes
opinion. Go
I I,
ahead.
I would have loved Ball. I would have loved Ball, but I get the logic of we don't know if he's, you know what I mean, like he hasn't necessarily proven himself yet. So why take the risk at such a vital position? And I'm only throwing stuff and seeing what sticks, like because I feel like there is importance. I don't see how you could not see the importance.
To me, it seems like the Knicks have this big plan that's crumbling and falling apart. like they want to stay flexible in case somebody, becomes available. They want to do this in case this happens. We want to do this just in case we need a point guard, but they have to fit into these parameters. And I get it. I mean, front offices do that all the time. But I just think at some point you got to make a move. Think about Chicago. So when Chicago made those moves, I was like, why are you spending so much money on Ball? And I like DeRozan. This team is not going to get you a championship, and now you cap strapped. Look what happened. I mean,
I mean,
I'm not saying they're going to win the championship, but they in it. You know
yeah,
what I mean?
yeah.
Like they're in it, And if they don't, they're gonna see how far they go this year. They're gonna make some tweaks in the off season, but they have their core, their base.
I agree, and I like Ball. Like I wanted Alonzo Ball. I said overpaid. Like that's the thing. Sometimes you even gotta overpay to get the guy you want. So the question is, did they want these guys? You know what I mean? Like
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because you can look at that Chicago team and you can look at Ball and what he does for them, and you could be like, is that worth 80 million? I mean, you got Levine, you got DeRozan. Would they have been as successful with another point guard paying less?
my
No,
logic,
no.
my logic was you got the most cap space, right? Just get a meeting with DeRozan and Larry together. You know what I mean? Sell them on a reuniting, proving you could get it done like that, what you couldn't get done
Hmm.
before, and then and
Hmm.
you guys figure out the math and the split. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
that was my logic. That was my dream scenario because I felt like you got two proven winners. Two guys that still got stuff to prove. We get a point guard position of need. I felt like DeRozan is a probably a better defender than Bullock, and
Hmm.
then definitely a better offensive player. Maybe without the 3-point shot, which somehow he developed over the last 2 or 3 years.
Hmm.
But so that was my go for it all. But a lot of people thought I was crazy with that, and I don't. I think that would have been a better move than what the Bulls actually did. You,
Hmm.
you, you know what I mean? So it's easy in hindsight to
Absolutely.
criticize a move and
Yep.
praise someone else's move.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
You know
Because
what I
at
mean?
the time, remember, we was like Fournier is a better fit for our team than DeRozan because people were, oh, he can't shoot the three, and he's shooting it a little better. He can't shoot the three. He's not a good fit. Now, now we would take him.
Yeah.
I just wanna talk to this point here. You know, most of the fans know, but some fans don't, that the way the lottery is right now, I think they changed it 3 years ago or what have you. There's no guarantees in a lottery, period.
Up or down.
Or you can go up or you can go down. So if you're tanking on purpose, or even if you're just not a good team, if you finish with the eighth worst record, there's no saying that you're gonna get the eighth pick. You can get the 11th. If you finish 11, you can get 14. So it's an inexact science. Even when the lottery was the way it was before, it's even worse now. So there's no guarantee you're gonna get somebody. But the way these guys are so close, unless you're picking in that top five, top six, you can probably get somebody like last draft. You can get somebody at 24 that has the same upside as somebody at 14. So when you say we're going to get a better draft pick, you're going to be in a better position, but it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get a better draft pick.
Yeah, you got better odds
You got better odds
of getting a better pick.
Right.
That's
But
about it.
right, exactly. So you could go up or you can go down. And the Knicks, for whatever reason, that year we got RJ, and I'm not mad. We had the worst record in the league and fell to 3. I mean, it's like we just can't get a break though.
So
Um,
Sherwin M says if you finish top 13, you will draft in top 13. So I guess 13th you can't go back, and any other pick you can.
No doubt about it. No doubt. Yeah, exactly. But what I'm saying is wherever you at, it doesn't necessarily
Yeah.
mean that that's where you're going to draft. And depends on how close the draft is. Now, I covered the draft last year for the first time. There wasn't a lot of separation after the first few picks. Probably after the first 6 picks, there wasn't a lot of separation. We got Grimes at 24. It remains to be seen, but there were picks before him that are not showing as well as he is now. So it's just no guarantees for me. Um, would I like to get the 13th pick if we earn it? Yes, definitely. Because I think there's something to a culture. You don't want to breed, in my opinion, a losing culture for the young people.
Mhm.
You're trying hard to win and you lose, and wherever you fall, I'm all for that. But to try to lose, well, like what message is that sending? You know?
So that actually must be the safest position, right? Because you can't lose your spot
What if you're
if
13?
if you're 13. So it's like I could only get lucky and improve. So, but I agree with you 100%. And there is no guarantee. And even if you get the pick, you still got to get the pick right. So there's always that. I like the fact that if there's one thing that our front office has done well and brought in is that team of draft scouts and the way they've been maneuvering within the draft. So I actually trust their maneuvering work in the mid range more than I do them necessarily getting the pick right early on in the lottery. I
Right.
mean, look at the questions that have been arised about Obi Toppin, and we should have picked Halliburton. We should have
We
picked
had the
this
eight,
guy.
and we
We
had the
should,
eighth pick.
you know what I mean? So it,
Yeah,
nothing's guaranteed,
yeah, yeah.
but experience is priceless. Even if it's just a playing, I'm not satisfied with that. But guess what? That's a meaningful game. That's a meaningful last game of the season. You know what I mean? It's do or die. The young guys
Right,
get that tournament feel. The
right.
you know, granted, a lot of our guys got playoff experience last year, but for the ones that don't, this is their playoff experience. You know what I mean? So that's valuable.
JJ, playing to lose just so you can get the top 5 pick. That's mediocrity. That's mediocrity in attitude. That's mediocrity in approach. If you're a basketball player, you playing to win. If you a coach, you playing to win. If there's anybody on my basketball team that's sitting there talking about we trying to lose so we can get the fifth pick, I don't want that player on my team or part of my organization, period.
You know what I've been meaning to ask
I
with
mean, come on.
a
Mhm.
lot of this tank talk, like are these same people okay with an athlete throwing a game? You know what I mean? Or shaving points or doing anything of that nature that yeah, it's illegal, but they they could be doing that to better themselves financially or whatever the case may be. Like, because to me, that's the equivalent of tanking as an organization. You know what I mean? Like you want to lose now to benefit yourself somehow in the future with a draft pick. To me, is it should be illegal. Just like like throwing a game, throwing a fight, uh, shaving points. You know what I mean? Like
It
that's
is.
not professional.
Right.
It's criminal to
Right.
me.
And that's why the NBA changed the odds of the lottery to prevent teams from tanking. That's why they put in the play in to prevent teams from tanking, to kind of increase that competitive spirit when people were out, out of the running for those eight spots. It's against basketball. You know what I mean? If you're a front office, you're sitting there thinking about the fifth pick or whatever. But if you're a competitor, are you really sitting there talking about we're gonna win so I can bring in another guy in the lottery that's gonna potentially take my spot? Like, which player is thinking like that? Which coach is thinking like that? And as a fan base, we're thinking like front office people, but you're not thinking as a player or a coach. And if you've ever played the game and you sat on the bench, and if a coach was to ever say, listen, this season is over, chances are we're not gonna get in the playoffs. We just gonna start preparing for next season. You would look at your coach like he had lost or she had lost their mind. You know what I mean? That's
Fact.
the game of basketball. It's built in you. You know what I mean? If you've ever played the sport, maybe the people that's talking about tanking haven't really played, haven't really been in that situation. You can't play to lose. It's just not in you if you're a athlete or a competitor.
I want to shout out Nixon Dimes in the chat. He said nobody is saying lose on purpose, bro. I promise you, there are people in this chat right now that are saying lose on purpose.
Right,
I
right,
promise you, there
right,
are.
right.
I know you're not,
And
but
and we
they out
losing
there.
anyway. So people should be happy. We are on our way to the lottery. You know what I mean? We are losing with our supposedly best players. So everybody should be happy right now. We are on the road to the lottery, right? So there shouldn't even be any, we should tank. I don't think we can lose any more than we're losing. We lost 8 of our last 9 games. We're on our way to the lottery on a slide, so we can stop talking about tanking and what have you. We are heading in that direction.
I'm sorry. I'm going through the chat right
Reading it,
now.
the chat is pretty
They
active. If you got any questions for us, definitely put it out there. You're exactly right, Steph. They never played, because if you ever played basketball, you would understand that, unless you're coming from the perspective of a general manager, because GMs do think like that. What's going to put my team in the best position down the line? But a player and a coach, they're not thinking like that.
yeah, that's it's horrible. Uh, it's just teaching bad habits. You know what I mean? And then you got guys that like a Mitch who's pretty much playing for a contract. So what is he supposed to do? Not give maximum effort and risk his financial future for the team's future, you know, lottery odds and things like you said. Play bad to get someone in to fight for the position I'm in. You know what I mean? Because you don't know who they targeted. So I'm gonna lose this game,
Hmm.
or I'm gonna sit out this game, so this guy could get experience, but so we could
Right.
bring in the next guy to to fight me for position. It's crazy.
Yeah. Definitely. And listen, we're gonna all have different viewpoints. Um, we just agree to disagree. We don't have to be disagreeable, or we just disagree. We have different, perspectives on it. Keep in mind, 50% of our rotation is already under 24 years old. So basically, we're talking about McBride and Sims. You look at any and Cam. You look at any um, team around the league, everybody is not playing. There are some rookies or young players that are on the bench that are not playing. Like we're 50% of our rotation is under 24 years old.
Hmm.
I mean, come on. What you want it to be 100%? You want Randall to just never play. You want Fournier to never play. You don't want these guys to play at all. I mean, come on.
Somebody in the chat says 6 losses get you out of the play-in. And again,
Okay,
when I said this last week, when we get to those 6 losses, yeah,
it's a different story.
sit,
It's a different
sit
story.
Randall. Like it's not worth risking an injury for 11 meaningless games. Play these young guys and see what they. But until we're mathematically eliminated, you gotta go with the guys you think is gonna win. And we may not agree with Tibbs's decision on who he thinks gives the best shot at winning. But if that's what he's doing, I gotta rock with him. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
We got another. Oh, we got a couple of super chats coming up. You see them?
Yes. Yeah. All right. Let's see. Nikki B from Harlem. When teams tank, the players get selfish and go after stats. You don't develop young players by giving them free minutes. That didn't help Knox. Knox got a lot of free minutes that first year. Um, Top five player have a chance to draft. Listen, we get it. We get it. We understand what you're saying. You're not understanding what we're saying. Number one, the Knicks are not getting a top five pick. They're just not. Number two, if we're in a lottery and it goes that way, fine. But you can't play to lose just for the potential of getting a top five pick. That's what I'm saying. We get the odds. We get that you'll get a chance to get a top five player. But like Tony said, once you get the pick, you got to get the pick right. You know? So we get it. Matan, we got it.
We'll be diving into the draft conversations in
Yeah,
about two
no
in
doubt.
about two
In
weeks.
about 2 weeks, because
you know,
we are definitely headed in that direction. And if we make the lottery honestly, I'm good with it. You give your best effort. That's where you land up. I'm good. You know. Um.
so I did have that question that I wanted to ask you again, and
Okay.
it asked the chat, and with Derrick Rose missing these 30+ games or 30 games, a lot of players had to sacrifice Burks and quickly in particular. So my question is, who's because I believe that both of them making sacrifices, not playing to their strengths and having to play the point guard position, kind
Hmm.
of hindered their best play. My
Hmm.
question is, if you agree with that statement, who do you think it's hindered more, having to play the majority of their minutes at the point?
Um.
Burks or quickly?
More. Yeah, you said more because it has hindered both of them. I think. Um. I think it hindered Burks more. I think because IQ was always hit or miss. He was always hit or miss. So, you know, you never knew what you was going to get from game to game with him. But Burks, playing that closer role for us, not only did it hurt him having to play this role, it hurt us as well,
Mm,
not having him down the stretch.
mm,
Even if he didn't play well in the game, he
mhm.
would hit a big shot for us or something like that, right? He was always in that closing unit. Um, and when he got hot, it was a wrap,
It's,
and I think him having to play that role, I think it hurt him the most.
I
Yeah.
agree, and I agree for the exact same reason. I think it took away a definitive role for him and
Hmm.
gave him, excuse me, kind of a, I call them a Swiss Army life early in the season, but it gave him a less definitive role. It was almost like, we need you at the end, no matter whether you hot or game, cold or game, you have a
Hmm.
definitive role at the end of the game, whether you're the closer himself or just part of the closing unit, definitive role. And then it turned into kind of, and you want this from every guy, but I think it hindered him, being just, whatever role you need from him, he kind of stepped in and done that.
Right.
Start
Right.
at the one, start at the two,
Right.
play the three
Right.
off the bench. So no consistency, playing out of position, and I think by the end of the game, similar to Randall, he's gassed. He's done so much through the course of 3 quarters that he didn't have the same focus to close games. So I agree.
Hmm.
And then you made a great point about quickly being off and on throughout his tenure here.
Yeah.
I didn't
Yeah.
even think of that,
Yeah.
and I credit him for showing a lot of improvement in all the other areas of his game. So that was the reason why I picked Burks over him, because I felt like even though his shot was
Hmm.
gone for a long portion of the season, he actually showed more of what he can do as a player. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like, he surprised me in his role at point guard. It's just his shot hasn't been reliable, if you will.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the difference between the eye test. When you look at quickly, and if you're just looking at the eye test, you would never want him to play that. Not never, but you don't want him to play that position. But statistically, we're a better team with when quickly is on the floor. You know. So and that's another thing. We gotta. I'm not saying we can't criticize coaches, but let's stop acting like we are coaches. Let's stop acting like we understand the NBA game and all that goes into making a decision. You know, we're on the outside looking in. We have our own criteria for what we would do. And just because a coach is not doing what we would do doesn't mean they're wrong. They have their own criteria. So should the coach go by what we think or what they think? A coach is going to go by what he thinks. And this is for all the fans. You get into the fan, they criticizing Spolstra, they criticizing San Antonio, they criticizing who the Atlanta coach who just last year took them to the Eastern Conference Finals. This year, because they're not doing well, he should be fired. You know what I mean? So the fan base and myself included is if you do good, you stay. If you don't, you gotta go. It doesn't matter what you did. What you did last year, you gotta go. I mean, they went to the Eastern Conference Finals. You know, and Tibbs' way is not working. The roster is not working. You don't win without horses. And this is the thing with the Knicks. We overvalue our players. Are you honestly looking at this roster and think that we should be in the sixth seed or the seventh seed? We're overvaluing the roster. Look at San Antonio. When Pop had players, They won 50 games, 48 games, 40 something games. Now they don't have players. You know how many games they're winning? 23 games. You need dogs to win. You know, nobody's complaining about Pop who just won 23. You know, you don't if you don't have the players, you're gonna lose. And that's a fact. And the Knicks just don't have the players. I thought if everything broke right, they had an opportunity to finish top three. If we're talking about um Charlotte Kemba, I mean everything would have had to break right. Charlotte Kemba, chemistry,
Rose
um
no injury.
Rose no injury, Randall having the
Noel
same
no
season,
injury.
Noel no injury, right? Randall having the same season he had, like so much would have had to break right for the Knicks to finish 3, 4, 5. None of that broke right. None of it. You know, so let's you want to let's see
I'm
when
seeing a
we have
lot
a
of people
full
say.
full roster.
I see a lot of people say that the Spurs tanked and the Spurs tanked for Duncan. Duncan Robinson was injured that year. Like their best player was injured the majority of that year. They didn't tank. They had a injury riddled bad season, but they was a playoff team prior to David Robinson getting hurt. They just had the best luck of going from a playoff team to the worst team and getting the best player to add to a already playoff team. That's different. They didn't tank.
Mm-hmm.
Injuries is what made them lose.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I had to throw that out there. The chat is going crazy right now. But I know
Mhm.
you wanna touch on the Zion thing before we
Ooh.
close out.
Yeah, let's
I see his name floating around the chat. Um, it
yeah.
feels like
Yeah,
good.
we could definitely do that. I just want to say this about the other teams winning with youth. People pointing to Cleveland, people pointing to the Raptors. If you look at those teams, they got you 4, 5, 6 year players in that league on those teams. You know what I mean? When you look at Cleveland, you could talk about Garland and you could talk about Mobley, but who else is in the starting lineup with them? Allen, marketing, and they just traded for Karis LeVert. They brought Rubio over. They brought Rondo over. So it's not
And
just young people. You know what
that's
I mean?
who was
Say
the
that
other
again.
team? Who was the other team? The
The
Cavs and who
Raptors.
else? The
The
Raptors.
Raptors. Van Vliet,
You know what both they
Siakam.
have too?
Hmm?
Championship experience. Both those
Right.
teams. Guys
Right.
that been to the top, won it all, and now they're role players, but they're teaching these young guys
Right.
how to win, what it takes to win. You talk
Right.
about a Rondo, a Kevin Love, um, Van Fleek, Siakam. Like these guys got to the mountaintop, fought
Correct.
to get there, and now they
Correct.
have young guys around them that they're molding in the same way that they was molded to get to where they who they became.
Right. Right. And the difference between their young players, they showing up game in and game out. That's the bottom line with the Knicks. We don't have those players that you can count on game in and game out. And you can't tell me we're going to be able to count on Deuce game in and game out, or we're going to be able to count on Cam game in and game out. And that's not a knock on them. They're young players. They're going to be up and down, right? But Cleveland is the way they are because Garland has stabilized and you pretty much know what you're going to get game in and game out. We don't have those type of players. We got 50% of our rotation is under 24. We still don't know what we're getting out of those guys game in and game out. And you want to put more young people in the rotation. RJ is just now getting to the point where we know what we're getting game in and game out. Other than that, who? You understand what I'm saying? So those other teams, what about Memphis? Yeah, what about Memphis? You know why? Because Ja and and and
Generational
and
talent.
Jackson, they balling out. You know what I mean? They've hit their stride. and you know what you're getting from them game in and game out. We don't have those players, so we're not going to be like them. And it's not because the coach doesn't play them. He's not playing them for a reason. They not ready. Bottom line, come on. We overvaluing this roster. The Knicks have to get players on this roster. Period. Period. And I'm including Randall. He not playing. We don't know what we getting from him game in and game out.
That's
But
the
anyway,
point.
let's move on to Zion.
Well, I think that's what. If I had to gauge Knicks fans, and maybe we reach out to Simi and try to get a poll done with the MBK fam and just figure out. But I think it's well over 50. I think it's probably in the high 60s, 75% of fans want or would welcome a pursuit of Zion at this point. And I think it's with the question marks of, where he is health wise. One of the things that I keep, shout out to Ron Still, Knicks fan. He said, we've never had a, a number one guy, like a face of the league type guy. And, you know, he's definitely that type of talent. But you guys that want Zion, there's a lot of question marks that come with that. And if it's done, like the Queen said earlier, it has to be done right. You can't mortgage the future for him. Extension or future contract has to be incentive based off health. Stipulations that protect the organization. Because there's no worse thing than to go all in on a guy, and then, like, he hasn't played this whole year, one game. You guys want to really take your chance and bring a guy in, and you don't know how many games he's gonna play for you? On the flip side, though, I will say maybe he gets the luck of a Joel Embiid, where he had 4 questionable years of not knowing when he's gonna play, but you knew the talent was generational, and they took a chance. I believe his contract was incentive based as well.
It was a incentive-based contract. I think this last one he signed may have been the first one without those incentives in it.
Yes, yes. So if it's something of that nature, I am for it. I'm sorry. Somebody says Zion is rumored to be in Portland rehabbing. Yes, yes. Rehabbing away from the team.
Which is not uncommon.
Not uncommon. Absolutely. Let's point that out there.
It's not
Because
uncommon.
I don't like the. It seems like half of the media is trying to paint him in a bad light, and the other half are maybe being a little bit more respectful in their opinion of just saying he's not handling things professionally. But
Somebody said Zion equals Oliver Miller, but so that's somebody who's been watching the game for some time. I do have concerns about that, though. I do have.
LeBron says Zion is depressed. I mentioned that earlier as well. Like, and it could be that more than him just not wanting to be around teammates and support his team and think, like, it could be a depressed thing, which is nothing to play around with. I'm sorry to cut you off, Quinn.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? I mean, I'm just saying from the Knicks' perspective, you know, it's a risk. He has the potential to be great. He has the potential to be injury prone for the rest of his career, or he could just be injury prone and turn it around and never get injured again, like Embiid, like Ilgastis, who played for Cleveland years ago. You don't know how it's going to go. It's a risk, but you get Zion. He's eligible for an extension. RJ's eligible for an extension. Cam is eligible for an extension. How much are you giving up to get him? Um, is New Orleans bringing their price down, knowing his injury history, and then you have to sign him. The other thing is he got weight issues, and I know people say, oh well, because he's not motivated in New Orleans, he wants to get out. That's that's what it's about. You know, there's a chance that he'll be disappointed here as well. There's a chance that things won't go his way here as well. So for those who say he's doing this, you know, gaining weight, not rehabbing with the team just because he doesn't want to be there, I personally don't believe that. But if that is the case, I wouldn't want him because it's going to be tough here as well. You know what I mean? Things are not going to go your way here as well. So what are you going to do? Put on 50 pounds? You know what I mean? Because
yeah, we do not need another Michael Sweetney.
Somebody says Zion would love Cocoa Bread.
Hey, I'm sure he let a fool out in New Orleans too.
Yeah, Galvin from Duval County at Steph. I don't like players who sabotage their way out of a situation because what will they do if they get tired of us? If that's the case, I'm not saying that's the case, but if it is the case, it says something. I mean, he's a young guy. I don't think that's the case. I don't think he's he may not be happy there, but I think the weight gain may have to do with the fact that, he's not playing. When you're not playing, you gain weight. $2 pizza. Oh my God. We went through this with Eddie Curry and
Michael Sweetney.
And Michael Sweetney. I mean, but they didn't have the upside. Eddie Curry, though. Eddie Curry had upside.
Man, I think that burglary, again, mental health, that burglary at his house, I think he was never the same after that.
Yeah.
Where he got kind of tied up and robbed, and his wife was tied up. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
He never recovered from that mentally, in my opinion.
I mean, if we can use our assets on somebody with less of an injury history, that's the way I would want to go. I just, maybe that's that PTSD, dealing with McDice, dealing with Amari Stoudemire, just paying a lot of money for players who you just didn't get. You didn't get your money's worth.
And I'll say this, I'm for it, but I'm not blindly for it to the point where, number one, first thing I want to know is what is the injury? Because we don't even know what has kept them out all this time. You know what I mean? So I think that's most important. I would like to see him on the court before making a move for him again.
But then the price might go up.
That is a fact. That is a fact.
The wrong games. That's right.
One thing we didn't mention here today, we talked about earlier, is the report out of New Orleans with the season ticket holders and the announcement they made to them that included, the teams, the players' names, but no Zion on this memo. And to me, that was the biggest news out of all this speculation and conspiracy, because that says a lot to me personally. To leave his name off of there, that's not a mistake. It's not someone who forgot. It wasn't a typo. You know what I mean? That was intentional. And I think it sent a message to the fan base, their fan base. It sent a message to Zion himself. I think it sent a message to the teammates and the team that have been playing together all year without him. So,
yeah.
What was your thoughts when you heard that, and what do you think the significance of it?
When I heard that he wasn't on the
the little flyer for
The
the
flyer for the season ticket holders.
correct.
I mean, I didn't really think much about it, to be honest. I'm so wrapped up in the Knicks right now. But I think, it could also be that they're unsure of what his future will be. I mean, it may not necessarily mean that he won't be there. It could just be that they're unsure um, whether or not he will be there. And maybe his camp, and his agent has communicated certain things to the organization as well. Maybe they've already said he's not signing an extension, but they won't put that out there because that's going to decrease his
Yep,
that's going to
absolutely.
decrease his
But even the
value.
flyer, don't you think that? I mean, not to the extent, but doesn't
That's
that
true. It does kind of, you
you know what I
tip your
mean?
hand a little bit. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So
You're right.
it's weird unless it's to the point of and it sucks because you can't do nothing now. It can't do nothing to the off season. So, well, unless it's to the point where you know what, let's get a jump on it. Let's move them now before it becomes nationwide story. Like you know what I mean? Similar to the
Right.
Knicks moving Porzingis, like came out of
Right.
nowhere.
Right.
Let's get ahead of it before the speculation is that he wants out
Right.
or the word is out that he wants out because now it's a
Right.
whirlwind cycle.
Right.
Um,
I,
so
I I
this is
just
the
want to,
third time I
go
seen
ahead.
in the chat people talking about Mitchell Robinson. Apparently, his father is missing. I was just looking to see if I see a story
Yeah, he
um
put it on his Instagram,
Instagram. Okay.
something like "Come Home, Pops" or something like that, and a number to call if anybody sees him.
Well,
Um,
prayers out to Mitchell and God willing, God hopefully everything is okay and gets resolved.
Absolutely. I do want to, I mean, this is a part of the Zion story we haven't covered. I forgot all about it. So shout out to Funny Sports Memes and Reactions. Y'all need to talk about what JJ Redick said about him, looking like he's a cancer. And JJ Redick played with him for a little over a year, and basically said that from what I remember, and if um, those in the chat, if you remember more than me, please put it there. That something like he was very disengaged when he was there, and he was a part of the team. Like this thought that he just didn't. You could see that he didn't want to be there, and he played a big part of last season. I mean, it was just a 72 game season, and he played 60 some odd
Mm-hmm.
games,
Average
or some
what 20, 26, 25?
26 or 20, 27. Um, I think so. So there are some who do think that there is it's more than the injury with him, right? That he's just not engaged with being there.
Bodega Wi-Fi. He says, "Excuse me."
Hmm.
Rose was depressed and fled NYC. Injuries have a mental effect on players. 100%.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And you know he got a lot of flack for that time. I remember it was myself included. I
Hmm.
didn't think about mental health or depression at the time. I thought of professionalism and leaving your team hanging and
Hmm.
lack of communication and the same type of things that have we just mentioned about Zion. So
Hmm.
again, I believe at this point it could be more of the mental aspect for him of whether him not recovering fast enough, not having
But there's
a
nothing
complete
going on that would
diagnosis.
make us think that he's depressed, though. Like, what would make you think he's depressed? I mean, I haven't heard anything that would make us think he's depressed. He's rehabbing away from the team.
The
Players do
I
that all
mean
the time.
that no that's a fact.
Yeah.
But I've been depressed before, so I know I don't want to be around nobody. You know what I mean? I don't want to, or I shouldn't say want because this was
Right.
a issue of the past, but I didn't want to be around anyone. You know what I mean? I didn't
No,
want to.
I get that,
So
but we don't know if that's because he's depressed. It could just be that he's just rehabbing away from the team, like a lot of athletes do.
agreed, but you got to admit the injury and the length of the injury and the lack of clarification of, like, he was supposed to. It started with I'll be ready for the season, to I'll be ready in January, to January. I don't know. I think it was January. The coach says, "I don't know what's going on," and that's when he started his rehab away. You know what I
Right.
mean? So
I no, no, no. I get all of
I'm
that, but it
saying
doesn't
the
mean
severity or us not the length of the injury in itself could be a cause of depression.
it
You
could
know what I
be.
mean?
But what I'm saying, this kid, he could be depressed, no doubt about it. But there's nothing that you said would indicate depression. I mean, he's away from the team. Team players rehab away from the team. If he doesn't like the direction of the organization,
Mhm.
that could be his reason for not contacting them. If he doesn't want to be there, that could be his reasoning for not keeping them up to date. Doesn't mean he's
I
depressed.
I agree. I'm giving an alternative to the
Okay.
negative narrative against them. You know what I mean? Like
Okay.
it
Okay.
seems like a lot, like at least half of the media has been not blatantly but passive aggressively painting the picture of him being
Hmm.
a bad teammate, a bad you know what I mean? Like the same kind of picture they were painting with Simmons.
Hmm.
I feel like not as aggressively, but there's been little innuendos that maybe he's a diva, maybe he's unprofessional.
Right.
And I'm saying alternative theory could be maybe he's depressed. Maybe he don't know how to handle this this injury and you know what I mean? Like it may not be he's a bad guy. It may just be he's in a bad spot mentally.
I mean, it could be. I just don't want to just start saying that people have mental health issues. If he does, that's fine. You know. But okay. There are all signs of depression, but there are other reasons that can account for his behavior other than depression. You know.
Agreed. And if it is the him and personality and
Hmm.
not liking the
And him
team,
just
then
not wanting to be around the team.
I don't agree with that because then that becomes the unprofessional. You know what I mean? Like you're under contract, you don't do
Which
those
part
things.
of it is unprofessional? So,
If there is speculation of maybe he's extending the length of the injury, you know what I mean? Maybe
oh, I
he
see what you. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
stuff
Okay,
like
that he could
I don't want
return, but he's
yeah
extending. Okay,
I
okay,
don't want to
gotcha.
I don't want no parts of that. You know what I mean?
Okay.
I don't care how talented you are because you know what I mean. Like that goes in line with tanking and selfishness and doing things for you rather than you know what I mean your team. So if that's the case, which I don't think he's had that kind of personality or things of that nature. I think a lot of it is speculation. We got here.
Keep Turner. If Zion Williamson don't like the Pels direction, then why on earth would he want to come here? Our direction ain't any better.
I'll tell you why. Friends, how many of us have the? He got two here. I mean,
Yeah, I just think the Knicks have taken a lot of risk. If we can get somebody with less risk, even if they're like a Donovan, I'm not saying we can get Donovan Mitchell. Um, and you could argue that Zion's ceiling is higher than Donovan Mitchell. I'd rather take Donovan Mitchell.
I do too. I mean, he's more proven. I think it's gonna be the same type of haul though, if not more, for Donovan.
Hmm.
But he doesn't have the injury history, I guess, I wouldn't be mad either direction. I think there's a fair argument for both. I think if the asking price for Zion is cheaper, you might go that way. The funny thing is,
Yeah.
I think if we got Zion, I don't think we have to include Randall in that move, which ultimately I think makes Randall available in another move.
Like a 3 team. Yeah.
You know what I mean? That
Yeah.
that which potentially makes us have Zion, RJ, Cam, and then Randall being used in a separate trade to acquire a fourth, you know, player. So it's very conceivable that they could build something long term. But I'm worried too about his health, his weight.
Oliver Miller, is it, even Charles Barkley, he got it under control for some time, but then, later on in his career, it came back. It's just really hard. Um,
I think that's the best example as far as like,
mhm,
and then it
yeah.
becomes like, what could Charles have been had he controlled it and figured it out? And maybe that's what Zion needs to do. Reach out to these guys with similar issues in the past. But I think with today's technology and medicines, if you will, I think it
Mhm.
should be easier for him to navigate through this than it was for a guy like Charles, who probably just had to deal with willpower strictly. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like,
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, I mean, the weight is a issue, and his game, is his athleticism, at some point, I mean, you wonder, put it this way, you wonder if his weight and the way he plays contributes to some of the injuries he's had. You
that's
wonder
fair.
that. And then you wonder if he's not able to control his weight, what's the longevity going to be? Sean Kemp. Sean, I didn't
Oh
even know Sean Kemp. Was Sean Kemp fat? I mean, I've only seen him slim. And
no.
then one season he just blew up. I didn't even know he was initially fat.
Oh, I didn't know he was initially fat
Yeah, yeah,
either.
but you know, so with Galvin's Zion doesn't fit our biggest problem, which is needing a point guard. We would still need to get. I mean, I'm on record. I'm not for the signing unless they get him on the cheap and there's injury um, protections in the contract. Other than that, it's not something I would do. Appreciate you, funny sports. Yeah, I don't remember. Yeah, I think Kemp was a little different. I don't know if he had weight problems, but at one point he did gain weight. I can't hear you, Tony.
I'm sorry. I'm saying goodnight to my daughter.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So yeah, that's yeah, Kemp was different. Yeah. So that's the issue with the weight for me.
Oh
Any anything else for the
no,
chat? Any questions?
where they at?
Tone, anything else?
No, I'm actually I'm gonna wrap it up because I'm using my daughter's computer and I'm gonna I don't want to keep it overnight. So I can hold
Okay.
it. I'll bring it in the morning.
How much do you want me to take out?
All
None.
right.
I'm
Maybe
gonna
you
come by in the morning. We good.
okay.
We good.
Let's yeah. So oh, you can unmute.
Yeah, we good
Uh
now. She
okay.
she said hold it.
Oh, we heard the whole conversation.
Uh,
I couldn't hit the mute button fast enough.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Dame or Zion? Oh,
And I've been on record of saying I'm over the Dame thing, and I don't know what happened. I fell asleep the other night. I had YouTube on, and somehow like it must have been like the best of Dame of Dame came on, And I'm like, I don't know what I was thinking when I said I'm over Dame because he's phenomenal still.
I mean, but he's 34. So like this is and shout out to Ron at Still Knicks fans. You know, when he was talking about like the Knicks not building, shout out to you, Savvy. Um, um, the Knicks not building the right way. Like I feel like if the Knicks went out and traded Obi, Cam, and IQ for LeBron James in the hopes that we're gonna make a run next season, I would have been like, all right, come on now. Like y'all going overboard. Y'all not building the right way. This is the same old Knicks. But to trade young players for players that's still in their prime, I don't see that as skipping a step. I don't see that as same old Knicks. Like if you go out, and I'm not saying any of these players are available, but if you trade young players for Dejounte Murray, Brandon Ingram, um, Donovan Mitchell, those guys are in their prime. So I see that as the Knicks just trying to upgrade and continue to build. I don't see that as missing steps. You know, like this idea that there's a certain way you have to build. There's multiple ways you can build. And that would be a legitimate next step if you ask me. You know?
No, I agree. The only thing is how long of a window do you
Those guys are
have?
young.
Oh no,
Dame.
mean
Oh, Dame.
Dame.
No.
I
No.
mean Dame.
I'm not for Dame. To me, your window was mad short. It was short last year with the way Randall played. You think about how he's playing now, we would need so much. Like to me, it would just be a waste of time. I'm talking about young players with wide windows. Um, I'm with you still, Knicks fans. I was never a big proponent of bringing in Dame because that gives you a 3 or 4 year window, and we are nowhere close.
Mm-hmm.
Close. I wasn't for it when Randall was playing well. Look where he at now. Nah.
The problem I have with it is I think with Dame you have to surround him with elite defenders. And at this point we have at best good defenders. You know what I mean? So but if it's the right move and somehow we finagle it, how
Who
do
you
you
putting
turn it
around
down?
him? Who are you putting around him in
You
this
mean
4 years?
who's left on the team, or who you adding in after whoever's left?
Right. Exactly. Who on this team or would you keep to pair with him? And who are you bringing in? You bringing in Dame at 50 million. To me, you ready. Or at least you feel like within 4 years you can win a championship.
That's the problem with that 50 million, because you talk about almost half of your whole team's salary cap. You know what I mean? I don't even think a ready team is positioned in enough where they can bring him in without giving up, while giving back $50 million in salary and still having a complete team. That was my problem from the beginning. But if somehow we rocking with Dame and keeping our youth around him, I think that's a different story. Now it probably ain't gonna get you a chip, so why do it? But it'll probably get you a perennial playoff team. You know what I mean? Similar to what Portland's been,
Right. But
with youth around them instead of aged
right.
veterans. But yeah, it's not my favorite option.
Yeah.
But
I think you want to, for me, you want to be a perennial playoff team on your way to being a championship contender. You know, so your perennial playoff team with Dame, I don't think he's going to be here long enough for you to become a championship contender unless you just
You,
go
you,
all out to put a team around him.
well, I beg to differ in the sense that I think we would be a perennial playoff team, and we would be banking on giving whomever is left. I'm assuming the RJ, the Cams, maybe Mitch, the 2 to 3 years to reach their peak. And then at that point, it would be literally moving on from Dame and bringing in whomever. But again,
I see what you're saying.
it's not my favorite
I see what you're saying.
scenario, but that's the only way I can see it working. And it wouldn't be a win, necessarily win now, like championship win now. It would be like kind of like where we're at with Randall, you know what I mean, going forward, because I think at some point Randall's not going to be the best player on this team if we kept the collection of guys that we have. I say 2-3 years from now, Randall probably wouldn't be the best player on the team if this collection of guys just played it out for 3 years. So, you know what I mean? I think by then RJ would be the guy. I think by then we would know exactly how good Grimes can be. You know what I mean? Like that's what I'm looking forward to see with Grimes. What is he gonna add to his game next year? We know what you're good at. You know what I mean? We know you're a defender. We know you take good shots. You can shoot the ball well. Can you add some dribbling to your bag? Some even going to the basket a little bit more, like some finishing. Like you got to add something. Otherwise, I think he can still have a long career, but for him to be better, he's got to add things year by year.
Yeah, no doubt about it. But I think the question is, how many players we have on this team with high ceilings? I don't really see a lot of players on this team with high ceilings. I got to be honest. RJ,
I agree.
Maybe
we
Cam.
got a lot of high floors though.
And I'm okay with high floors.
I'm
okay with high floors. I don't really see a lot of high ceiling guys on this team. They could surprise me, and I could definitely be wrong, and I hope I am. But I just don't see a lot of high ceiling guys on this team.
That's what that's what a Zion would potentially bring. You know what I mean? Like,
but with the risk though, high ceiling and combustion on the other end. You know what I mean? So, he comes with risk.
If they could promise me, hey, I can't promise you he's gonna reach his ceiling, but I can promise you he's gonna be a 10-year vet. You know what I mean? A 10-year pro. I would take that risk. You know what I mean? If you could promise me injury is not going to be career ending, I would take the risk because, again, I think his basketball IQ is up there with the elite ones. You know what I mean? I think he knows how to. I think he's going to be fine not relying on his athleticism.
Oh, you still talking about Zion? Yeah. I mean, if we get him. Building roots, facts, but that's okay. Our guys are strong support cast members. We just need a star to lead them. I agree with that. I mean, I'm okay with having high floor guys after having a lot of hit and miss guys. It's good to know that you got high floor guys. Some of them. I think, Mitch is moving into that category, but, his floor, I still think his floor is uneven, in terms of knowing what you're going to get from Mitch game in and game out. But he has a very high ceiling, Obi has a very high.
I swear Mitch needs to go talk to Gobert and figure and ask him like, at what point did you realize like how to stay in the game? And granted, Mitch has been way better at that as of late. Like this year, it hasn't been an issue. Last year,
I don't think that's an issue for him. I don't think foul trouble is the issue for Mitch. I think the issue for Mitch is sometimes he's just slowly coming along with the 14, 17 games, and the next game 6 points, 8 rebounds, right
But
when you
usually
think
that one, that next one, the 6 and 8, it's foul trouble that hinders him. When you know what I mean? Like I feel like
or
he's reached
injury
or
or
injury,
back
yeah, or
or
injury.
ankle or he's holding his back, he's holding his ankle, he's limping up the court. It's like it's just always something with Mitch. It's
When the
like
announcer
I'm just
said, "Oh my
I'm
God,
just ready for like a
Mitch got
double
it,"
double, 2 blocks every single game. That's it.
the announcer said, "Oh my God, Mitch is coming up hobbling," but he comes up hobbling every game. He was like, "We're gonna have to wait and see, you know what I mean, the severity of this one."
Oh
I'm
God.
like, that's such a fact, yo. He come up
Yeah.
hobbling every game.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Anyway, shout out to the chat, Ace of Spade, LeRon Maynard, Tricky Nicky, appreciate you, C Biz, David L, Kaiser Sorze 718. I hope I got that right. Gavin from Duval County, who was on the Queen's Court Monday. If you didn't check out that episode, go back and listen to him. I appreciate your takes. B Willis, RG the OG, appreciate
Uh-oh.
you. Les Daly, Keith Turner, all of you guys, I appreciate you for rocking with MBK overall and the crossover in particular. Any last words?
No, this was a very great show, a great day of potting. I'm at peace. I missed Monday. My computer went down. Hopefully I get it back up by Monday. If not, I'll still see you guys. I'll make sure I'm back Monday with Knicks and Bruises. Queen,
Yeah.
let's appreciate you. You know, we got this thing started a couple weeks ago, but we going strong. I think this is month 2,
Definitely.
so
Yeah,
we
definitely.
we going strong. And
Yeah,
we're gonna keep bringing you this content.
definitely. Hit that like button on your way out. We got 237 in the chat. I appreciate you guys. We don't take you for granted. If it wasn't for you, there would be no crossover. There would be no Queen's Court or any Nick
There
YouTube
would be
channel.
Knicks and Bruises, but it probably wouldn't be a podcast. It'd
So
just be our personal thoughts.
right. Hit those likes and listen. I get hyped sometimes. I disagree with you guys sometimes, but it's all love. It's all love. We agree. Let's just agree to disagree, but let's not be disagreeable and make it personal. So I appreciate, you guys, those who agree with me, those who don't. It's always love. All right. Always. All right. We are out of here.